What is going on? We are back with another live episode of Dynasty Theory, special draft edition. I'm John Bauer. Find me on X at the Bauer Club. Mitch Sorensen at Dino MC. With the first round behind us, Mitch, we've had a lot of great conversations, whether it was on the live stream on Ray's channel last night, whether it was on the post show. Don't forget about the pre-show too.
Mhm.
And then just in the Discord, a lot of conversations obviously centered around 2025 rookie picks, how they compare to veterans, how they compare to future picks, kind of where our tier breaks are looking to be at this point, one day behind us. Mitch, there's been a little bit of negativity, and we talked about this. I was in the Heisman voice chat,
Mhm.
trying to calm people down a little bit. It seems like if you didn't like the class before, if you thought there were some concerns, that hasn't changed through one day. If you felt okay about the class, that hasn't changed after one day. Where do you sit on this right now?
It's because nothing's changed. The only thing we walked into that draft yesterday saying, hey, we probably have 11 offensive players that we care about getting drafted. We had 10, and that's just because Shedeur Sanders fell down. And there's a lot of people who didn't like Shedeur Sanders in the first place. Like, I watched a lot of mock drafts that happened in the last 2 weeks and the month before this, to where Shedeur Sanders wasn't even going in the first round of Superflex mock drafts because people just didn't like him. And so I think you're completely right. It's, if you didn't like this class coming in, nothing that happened should have told you, oh, hey, I was wrong. I need to change my thoughts. And if you like this class, it's the exact same. You're like, oh, well, Shedeur fell, but he's probably going to go, sometime today to a spot that he could probably start. I'll like him at the 205 now instead of the 108 that I liked him at before.
There certainly has been some movement, obviously, most notably Shedeur Sanders falling. Jackson Dart was, in fact, the second quarterback taken off the board. From Sean here, what are your tiers post round one? Any moves you're trying to make to move back, move up between tiers? The way things have shifted for me, Ashton Genty, still the 101. That has not changed. I actually did put a little bit more of a gap between him and 102. And it wasn't so much because, well, hey, the top 10 draft capital, that was the expectation. Like you said, nothing changed there. But going to the Raiders, that's one of my favorite spots. And we talked about this how many weeks ago, how many months ago, kind of our top 5 spots for rookie running backs. And he's going to get a heavy workload. We don't have to go into his metrics, his college production. Just, I created a little bit more of a gap. Now, when we get into the 102, this is where it starts to get tricky. And this is where we are going to see, yesterday the word for me was variance. League to league, draft to draft, there's going to be a lot of variance, and that hasn't changed. As we had a night to sleep on things, what we've seen so far. Is the 102 in a separate tier from the 103 and beyond for you? Or how does that look, Mitch?
It's not for me. Right now I have a very large tier of like 102 to 105, 106, because depending on league settings, I could talk myself into a player and out of a different one. Like, I love Amarian Hampton going to the Chargers, but the problem is they throw this. Last year they threw the second least amount of times to a running back, and we want that PPR value. We want that with running backs.
Can I play devil's advocate there?
Okay, go ahead.
And maybe it's just because they both came from Baltimore, where the running backs aren't overly used in the passing game, but J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards historically have not been huge receiving backs.
But then you get into the whole, is it the offense or is it the player? Is the offensive coordinator willing to change? And we're willing to do that if it's a rookie that we like, but if it's a rookie that we don't like, we're not really making that same, well, what if situation. So I'm just saying, just throwing out, Denver threw the ball literally twice as many times to their running backs, right? So let's say Travion Henderson, Caleb Johnson, someone goes to Denver. I'm willing to at least entertain the notion now of, hey, maybe that's the 102. or in just a flat PPR league, Tet McMillan, Travis Hunter, both of them in a straight PPR league, I could see why people would draft him there. I'm personally attacking running backs. That's what I've said from this draft class from the get-go. But there's conversations now to where I wasn't even entertaining that conversation, 48 hours ago.
There are a lot of talks. It happened on our streams last night, happened in the Discord today. You go on X, you go on Reddit, wherever. A lot of talks centered around Tet getting that top 8 draft capital, going to a spot that he, in fact, can be the alpha in any way you want to, look at that word, alpha. And then Travis Hunter, the expectation was going to Cleveland. We talked about this last night, and it's always nice to have a little bit more time to think about things. But I was saying yesterday, well, we knew that Travis Hunter, if he went to Cleveland, he was going to be primarily receiver based on what we were told up to this point. And then you said, well, we've never seen coaches or GMs lie before, and you're right. But going to Jacksonville, it seems like the expectation is still receiver first, cornerback second, and you actually have a solid quarterback throwing you the ball. And you have another high-end elite wide receiver that is able to take presumably top coverage away. And I think that offense has a chance to be far more efficient this year. But even with that said, I'm still not talking about Tet or Travis Hunter at that 102 spot. I'm not there. They're not saying they're bad prospects by any means, but Dustin, come on.
I'm saying, but it's a conversation. It's not in all of our mock drafts before this. It was Hampton. Now we're getting a lot more voices that are saying something different, which I think does help the value of these early picks.
It creates more variance. One person's 102 is not going to be another person's, and it very well could be their 105 or 106. And then you start to throw in Cam Ward. The only thing that could change for me in this second round, as we look here early in, the 30s, the Bears, obviously a very nice running back landing spot. The Browns, they got the 2 picks there early in the third. Cowboys, Broncos at 51. That's kind of the money spot that you obviously have already talked about. So if Travion Henderson were to go there, I know you really like Caleb Johnson. Mm-hmm. Do they enter the conversation for you then at that point at 102?
Yeah, definitely. Whoever goes to Denver, if they go in the sometime today, I don't care if it's the second round, third round, they don't have anybody there. So as long as they go sometime today, I'm willing to entertain the debate there. But it's going to make it so I don't want to trade out of the 102 or the 103. I'm going to be more than happy to have those picks. I've been trying to trade up into some picks today, and I haven't had a lot of luck so far.
Yeah, admittedly, I haven't spent too much time out there on the trade streets today. Amari and Hampton is still my 102.
Mm-hmm.
I like the profile coming in. He checks every single box for me. And that's certainly not going to change after he gets first round draft capital, after he gets a nice landing spot. And again, we talked about it last night. So if any of you crazies were listening to the streams last night, you're going to hear some familiar things here. But Najee Harris is not going to preclude me from going with Amari and Hampton at the 102.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's going to be in 12-team Superflex formats, even with a somewhat deep tight end premium. So how far does that tier go for you then?
Because 106.
Okay, so I'm 101, 102, and then 103 to 106.
Mm-hmm. Which is, we're really close. I'm not going to really want to add to the 103 to get up to the 102, because I think the prospect I'm getting at that 103, it's going to be really close. You were pointing out Mike Clay's projection in the Discord earlier. And if you pull up, and Mike Clay does a really good job. It doesn't mean this is what's going to happen. It's just, on average, this is probably going to happen more often than not. And if you don't like Mike Clay,
at least in the ballpark.
Yeah, without a doubt. And they're good. And so he has Amari and Hampton going for about 14 points per game, which is about running back 20, which is, it's fine. It's good for a rookie. That's awesome. But I do think projection wise, a lot of these running backs that we're going to see in the second round, well, the couple that we will see, I think they're going to be in that same ballpark.
That tier could be the 103 to 106 that stretches to the 108. What do we got here? Hendo has never been a workhorse. Workhorse. What is Mitch talking about?
I'm not saying it's Henderson. Caleb Johnson, more than happy. Dylan Sampson, more than happy. There are multiple backs that can go, and it doesn't just have to be Henderson. And no, Henderson has never been a workhorse, and he has huge durability issues. But that shouldn't stop you from saying, hey, in this class, him going to Denver is a really good risk you're willing to take.
Okay. I was like, wait, I saw it in your eyes. You were pulling something up here on the screen, and I wasn't quite sure where it was going. So, kind of back to Sean's question here. I got a trade offer in a 12-team Superflex league today. It was my 105 and Terry McLaurin for 102, and I quickly rejected it. And I had the manager reach out to me and said, "You're not interested in getting a Martin Hampton?" And I said, "I am, but not at the cost of a Terry McLaurin." So if we're looking at Terry McLaurin as what, 111, 112 value, no, I'm not going to add a first onto the 103 or 105 when I have it tiered all the way up to the 103 to move up to the 102. And I think a lot of people would echo that sentiment. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So then we talked about the 103 to 106. Is this where the tight ends come into play for you if it's a plus 0.75 or plus 1 premium? Or do they go a little bit further down?
As of right now, that's where they are. But I do think we're going to see some good wide receiver landing spots that could end up kind of changing the back end of this first round. Right now, that's where I like the tight ends. If anyone was saying, hey, what pick should I give up for Loveland or Warren today? I'd say, hey, if you could get them for the 107, the 108, I think you should make that trade. It's one of those things that's a little bit hard before tonight because I do think we get some steam with Judkins, with Henderson, with Caleb Johnson.
Those
And
three.
if that happens, I went back to my early rankings, and they're not very far different. I changed them. In the meantime, in between the early and right now, I've changed my rankings. But if I look at my rankings and then go back, I mean, they're really close to you. Move Sanders down. I had him at the 105. He's a second round pick now. They're pretty close.
All right. Looking at then like the three running backs you mentioned there, obviously Henderson, Judkins, and Caleb Johnson. Sorry, I'm reading some of the comments. That's going to drive home the value of these late picks, these late firsts, and how we ultimately see them. I'm sure we'll circle back to Sean's comment here as we work through some of these other ones. All right, how do you guys think the target distribution in Chicago will go with DJ Moore, Rome, and Loveland?
You go first on this one.
Oh. So when you look at target distributions, on average across the NFL, it's 60% to the wide receivers, 20% to running backs, 20% to tight ends. I think it follows somewhat closely here when you look at Loveland and Kmet. Maybe they combine for about 120 targets, 110, somewhere around there. So I think if we're expecting either Loveland or Warren to go in and put up premier stats in year one, I think there's going to be disappointment there, right? They're not Brock Bowers. They're not going to be stepping in to that elite ceiling, that elite opportunity. And with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, 23% for Moore, 20% for Odunze, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and it really depends on how you feel. I think Moore is going to be more of the Amon-Ra St. Brown of that offense. So I think he's going to get up more targets, but pick your poison between Moore and Odunze and then give, Loveland a little bit less than that. But, I went through Mike Clay's projections today just to look at, hey, kind of what can we expect? Because you look at it, it says, hey, 54 receptions, 600 yards, 4 touchdowns for Colston Loveland. Okay, but what does that really mean as far as the rest of the tight end landscape? Kyle Pitts, someone nobody likes, 45 catches, 600 yards, 4 touchdowns. Almost the exact same as that. Hunter Henry, 52 catches, 550 yards, 5 touchdowns. And so, while I do like these guys, this is kind of where I'm catching myself a little bit, because I really like these tight ends coming into the draft. But with their landing spots, with the talent around them or lack thereof in Indy, I really think at the 108, 109 now, I would prefer to move back, get a veteran tight end and maybe get a future first and let someone have this 108, 109 and draft one of these tight ends. And then I will have a veteran who's going to put up just about as many points and get future capital.
All right. Who's someone you think you're going to be higher on than consensus?
Based off last night or right now?
Take it any way you want.
Why do I always have to answer first? I know it's because you're thinking. It's fair. It's fair. So if I'm going to pick a running back, I talked about him on the post show last night with everybody. Dylan Sampson is still a dude that I think people just flat out forget about, who I think can be a workhorse in the NFL. So he is one to where I feel right now, as long as he goes sometime tonight, I will be higher on him than what other people are, because people will move. Like, even if Judkins goes in a worse spot, they're probably going to like Judkins more than they're going to like Sampson. As far as last night goes, I don't know if I have one that I'm really higher on than consensus. I can't think of one.
For lower, I'll go on that end. It's going to be Matthew Golden. I know we talked about him last night. He gets the first round draft capital. He goes to Green Bay in a situation where things seemingly are wide open. We know Jaden Reed is there, who has had success. But you read the quote from LaFleur, right?
Yeah.
And that coaching staff. And are they looking for that alpha wide receiver one? They seemingly don't think they need it in their offense. So that paired with, and it's crazy to think, oh man, he got the draft capital, so how can you be knocking him? It's also the profile coming in.
Yes.
Right? You said it last night, and it's spot on, and it's exactly what I'm doing right now. How did you feel about these guys prior to last night? Probably hasn't changed much.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it hasn't changed whenever you look at Matthew Golden.
That's something, I mean, it doesn't really have to do a lot with this, but I catch myself with Ted McMillan, because that landing spot's really good. I kind of believe in that coaching staff to do good things, but I didn't love him as a prospect coming in, but I don't want to just hold that against him, because I could 100% be wrong. Like, I could just flat out, hey, he's actually going to be really good. Analytically, he is the best wide receiver in this class, right? Based off analytics.
Sorry, I was reading.
I figured you weren't paying attention to a thing I was saying, so I did what you do and just ask you a question to see. Ted McMillan, though, best wide receiver analytically in this class.
Yeah, the only thing is he's got a kind of an elevated contested target rate, but outside of that,
yeah,
like, it's not even to that alarmingly concerning territory.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so why should I be letting a couple, when he's out there run blocking, he doesn't try? Why am I holding my dynasty teams back by not selecting him for something that might not even matter? Coaching staff picked him top 10. Obviously, they literally don't care about that. So why should I be like, no, I'm going to make him slide down to 105 now because I'm not willing to pick it. He's a top 10 draft pick who analytically is awesome. He's 6'4". He's a guy who can physically dominate if that's how he chooses to play. So that's something to where I'm not going to get higher on him, but I'm definitely higher on him now than what I was yesterday.
From Go Big Green, did Emeka's landing spot in Tampa Bay just make all their wide receivers harder to own for at least 2025?
This kind of do you remember probably 4 years ago when you talked about tight ends in Dynasty, rookie tight ends, the answer was don't draft them the year they come out. Wait till the next offseason and you buy them then because they're never really good as rookies and they kind of take off year 2. You could have done the same thing with JSN. You could get JSN at the 108, or you could just wait a year and then, hey, get him at the 201. You could have him at the blow up year. Everyone says it's kind of the same situation. I think it is as far as JSN and what we're seeing with Emeka. The one drawback is, why would you make that gamble this year? Is he going to help you? If you're in a rebuild, by all means, go ahead, get him. If you can't trade out, get a future first, and that's not possible, then go ahead and trade and pick Ibuka. If I'm on a contending team, and a lot of teams that are picking at 109, 110, 111, 112, they are contending teams. This guy probably isn't going to help you contend outside of injuries. And if we're going to use injuries as an example, we kind of have to use it for everybody, not just the select rookie that you like.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think it negatively impacts it. I want to phrase this. I'm going to be very careful the way I phrase this. It's going to have an impact overall when you look at the target distribution between the position groups, like we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to hurt like a Cade Otton more than anybody. It's going to hurt a Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, Ott
more
isn't
than
even
anybody.
rosterable right now.
And who knows if Chris Godwin does play the entire season?
It's true.
How does that recovery look? What is that timeline like? And the volume is there. Baker Mayfield is going to sling it. Am I saying he's going to be one of those rare quarterbacks that supports 3 top 24 receivers? No. But when you look at these wide receivers coming in, on average, if you come in and you put up just 9 points per game in PPR formats, unless you're like a Marvin Harrison, unless you're a Jamar Chase, one of those really elite prospects, you typically hold your value.
Mm-hmm.
And you pair that with Mike Evans on a contract year, what happens there? So we talked about it last night, but I still think it is a fine spot for Emeka Egbuka.
Okay, let me ask. Luther Burden goes second round to the Titans.
Egbuka.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Why?
The one thing from an analytics perspective that really stood out to me is the amount of work he gets behind the line of scrimmage, Luther Burden.
Okay.
And it doesn't always translate to the next level. And I don't even care about there's character concerns in terms of maturity and all that stuff that, maybe that's why he's going to slip. Again, it's easy for these anonymous reports to come out and just shit on these kids.
Who's your next wide receiver then?
I have Golden and Burden paired together.
Okay, but you don't want Burden over Bouquet. Is there anybody that can be selected in your dream landing spot? I just picked Tennessee because I don't really like the wide receivers. Patriots, whoever you want. Is there a wide receiver that's going to be drafted tonight that can move ahead of Ibuka, which would mean ahead of Golden and these other guys?
Ahead of Ibuka? No.
Okay.
For me, no. Can somebody elevate themselves to the Golden tier? Because I don't have them tiered together.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Who?
Jaden Higgins. He's one of the guys. Trey Harris, potentially. I ultimately don't think Alec Imanor gets the draft capital we're looking for. I like Imanor a lot. But then, I know a lot of people like Jalen Knoll. You've talked about Jalen Royals how many times, but they're not going to be able to elevate themselves to that point for me.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Oh, Big Diaz, panic on the draft straights.
Yeah. I joined that Heisman chat for a good solid 5 minutes today. And I'm like, I can't do this negativity before we're going to be streaming for 8 hours tonight. It's just not going to happen.
It was negative. What's the pick at 102 with this roster? Kyler, Dak, Saquon, Derrick Henry, JT, Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore, Godwin, Sutton, and then Fergalicious at tight end.
Show off first. It's a Myron Hampton. Right now, if I'm making the pick today, that's who I'm picking.
Yeah, there's enough there at wide receiver. I know we could sit here and say that there's enough there at running back, but you have Derrick Henry, and we know typically the volatility of the running back position, again, even though we didn't see it in 2024. Let's see here. Let's see. All right, Scott. If Shedeur goes to the Rams, will the sentiment on him flip to the point where he can be rescued for the sake of rookie pick value? I still don't see him elevating any higher than a mid-second. I think that's best case scenario. Well, let me say, I like the Rams landing spot for a quarterback to sit there for a year, see how it plays out. It's been talked about Matthew Stafford, kind of a year-to-year situation at this point. But the community is still going to look at a quarterback to the Browns, a quarterback to the Saints at 40 and say, hey, this is a spot. I know it's the second round, but it's a spot where they can have an immediate opportunity. And that's going to carry more weight than, yeah, it's the Rams. It's a better situation, better organization, but he's going to sit.
Yeah. Shedeur Sanders was my quarterback one. Just was. He was the whole time. I loved him, but the NFL obviously doesn't. So I'm willing to get off that. So now let's say he does that or he goes to the Browns really early. He's a second round guy, especially to the Browns. This is what I was really thinking about earlier. They go out, let's say they're middling team. They finish between like their next pick next year is the 112 to the 118, right? We're doing mock drafts. So we're going to start doing mock drafts next January. Is Shedeur Sanders being there when them just being a middling team going to stop us from being like, well, the Browns could end up picking a quarterback here because Sanders kind of didn't do enough. And so I can't talk myself into him now, no matter where he goes. For me, he is at very best the 202, 203, more than likely the 208. And someone, as we've seen in all of our leagues, there is someone who will talk themselves into him way before I do. Michael Penix was, a lot of people are taking him the 108, the 109, and right now that looks awesome. But at that point last year, I wasn't willing to do that because I like some different players in that range. There's always going to be someone who likes that kind of quarterback prospect a lot more than I do.
All right, Cameron, currently have an inbox offer of my 106 for 110 and 202. Think we got to see how today goes. Yes, you have to see how today goes, but is that offer still on the table depending on how those results go? I have no issue with sitting. Just sit on the offer. Fair or foul? I think that's fair. Sit on the offer. It as the NFL draft progresses, if things go your way and that 110 to 202 really takes form, accept. Fair?
No, I'd accept.
Otherwise, give me that 106. And this is a move I would be happy to make, especially if, the way you built your roster, it's, you're looking at it and you have the right position groups in order. And if you're at that 106 and you need that running back, or, maybe Cam Ward slips and you're looking for that opportunity to shore up your quarterback position, whatever the case may be, I like trying to package up here and get into certainly that top 6. And that could look like a top 7 or 8 again, whenever we see how things play out. Sure, looking at it with rose-colored glasses on, and hopefully we don't get just absolute shit landing spots and I'm going to be just a miserable prick tonight.
So I love this comment from Dewey. Okay, I think it's pretty spot on, but there's a funny aspect to it. Browns ain't taking a QB. They're set up to take a QB in next year's class. Bringing in Shedeur would just bring unneeded quarterback room drama. This is the same staff that brought in Deshaun Watson. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think that's going to stop them from doing it, any quarterback room drama, but I do think you're on the right note there. But I just don't think that quarterback room drama would stop them from doing anything.
Tom, I would rather have the Bears running back if they draft one within the top 50 than Bears wide receiver currently or Loveland. Agree. So if they take a running back in the top 50, if they take a running back at 39 or 41, preferring that running back than Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, or Colston
Oh, I
Loveland.
agree. Sorry. It took me a second to get through that, but yeah, fully agree.
So kind of a follow-up question. It kind of ties into there were some Bears questions earlier today. That's kind of the hot topic. If the Bears draft a running back at 39 or 41, besides Caleb, who would you want the most shares of in that offense? Are we saying the most shares at cost? You know me. Price
I need
dependent.
league settings. I need the buy-in amount.
It's gonna for me at cost. I think it would be DJ Moore, Roma Dunes, or DJ Moore, the running back. Sorry,
DJ Moore is the guy who I want to have a lot of shares of, just because I think it's attainable. Because I think any Bears running back is going to be really hard to attain unless that Bears running back is named Swift, right?
I love this. Cameron made a comment about the trade. Roy says, "Is that for me?" I've sent about 20 of those out. Cameron says, "That's you." All right, let's see. Would Ted have been taken before 20 last year? Oh man, I don't think I don't think so. Overall, I talked about this class outside of Hunter, especially whenever there was all of the negative narrative surrounding Ted McMillan, and again, how he doesn't love the game of football, this, that, or the other. But that class was Zay Flowers, JSN, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnson, how they were all kind of clumped there in the 20s. So I think that over-under set at 20, I think that's very reasonable.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not remembering. I think it's close, because really, really close. Because I mean, Lad McConkey was close to there. People loved A.D. Mitchell. He was definitely after Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors, Adunze. He just went in the top 10. An NFL team would have liked him last year just like they liked him this year.
From Patty, how are you trying to buy late first? For me, and again, format comes into play here, right? We're assuming super flex. We're assuming there is a tight end premium. I'm looking to consolidate assets from, 203 and on, if at all possible. Maybe somebody, they are sitting there with the 110, 111, 112, and they're like, I don't really love this spot. Give me an opportunity where I have more shots at it with multiple seconds. If I like the situation of my team, if I like the way it's constructed, if I like the immediate outlook, I will move that 26 first. And I know within the DD Discord, that is a no-no. But that's still something that I'm okay with. But again, that is a bet on what today looks like for the NFL draft.
That 26 first is great in value. It's awesome. It doesn't help your team win in 25. Yes, it means you could go out and trade it at some point.
All right. You covered it.
You can always go out and trade it. That's fine. You could do that. It's always going to be better to move a pick today for a pick tomorrow, because that pick is going to end up being worth what that pick is today. And then you could kick the can down the road. That is very easily a way that you can play it. But at the same time, what I'm doing is I'm not really looking to go and buy the 110 right now. But during the draft, I'm paying a lot of attention to who is sliding. Maybe I don't have a good quarterback 3. And Jackson Dart sitting there. I had this in a pre-draft happen. Jackson Dart was there at the 201. I did what I could to move up and to get him, because I needed a third quarterback. I kind of went into last season saying, hey, I want three starting quarterbacks on all of my rosters. Couldn't get there on some because of the price point. But so that's something that I'm trying to do. More than likely, there isn't going to be a wide receiver that falls to that 110 to where I'm like, hey, I really need to trade up here and get that guy. It could easily be in a tight end premium league, could be a tight end, could be a running back, could be a quarterback. But I'm kind of looking for the slide more so than, hey, I'm going to go and try to get the 110 today. Because what if I want the 110, but my team's pretty good and I kind of only need a quarterback 3, or I need like a flex running back. I trade for the 110, and in front of me, all the running backs that I really like get taken. All the quarterbacks are gone. I'm like, well, I guess I will take Matthew Golden or whatever.
And the late first, it gives you an opportunity here if you are at that point where you have veterans on your roster that you've been trying to move, you've had no luck, and you have managers in your league that are either looking to transition to a contender status or they're also looking to fill certain position groups. This is your opportunity to maybe get off of some of those assets
Mhm.
because of the overall thought and general value when it comes to these picks. So I think there are plenty of opportunities to maneuver around there. Let's see here. Let's see. How are you trying to buy 27 first? Back up the Brinks truck.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's
Their price is so high. There's no reason to buy into them now because I will say, okay, 75% of your dynasty managers know, hey, everyone wants to buy into this draft class. And so the prices are so high. You're almost paying at max price 2 years prior. And I don't see any point in doing that.
this is also where you kind of evaluate the team of the pick who you're acquiring.
Yes. Like,
You can
do
make
they
that
have Derrick Henry, Mike Evans?
you can make that educated guess. And of course, we're not always going to be right with the way things shape
Mhm.
up. We think that we can look out 2 years. Hell, we think we can look out 2 weeks, and oftentimes we can't. But you look at that 27 class, it already has 3, 4 guys that are highly sought after. And if folks have an opportunity to land them, especially at a reasonable price right now, you know, I would explore it. But I think what you could do, and it's going to take a certain kind of manager. But if you're looking at that tier of wide receivers, Mitch, that I have in tier 9,
Mhm.
like a DK Metcalf, a Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, Chris Olave, there are going to be opportunities. And if you go on dynastydaddy.com, I'm sure you're going to find some trades that are kind of structured that way because people are always looking at those wide receivers. And if they can acquire them, there might be people that picks 2 years out. This wide receiver, they could help me compete right now. I don't want to, this is a move I could make. So, the 27 class, it's certainly going to be an interesting dynamic.
Mhm.
Whenever we get to it, D-Man says Pickens will be traded for a second. I am on board with Pickens being moved. I'm on board. All right, Dewey. 2 inbox offers for the 102. 102 for the 105 and 108. And these are basic 12-team Superflex start 10. I'm going to take the 105 and 108.
I'm taking the package in both of them.
That second one is far closer for me.
Right now.
Because,
I bet if I ask you tonight, I think you'll end up accepting the package.
okay. Sounds a little promiscuous. You will accept the
Well,
package.
sometimes things happen late at night.
All right, let's see. Zay Flowers and Tyrone Tracy for 108 and a 26 second.
I love Zay Flowers, but I might go the 108 here. Like I have no faith in Tyrone Tracy being able to keep that job. Could he be the starter? Without a doubt. Could he also get replaced by training camp? Yeah, by week 3 for sure. And people just don't put that much value in Zay Flowers. I think he's a very good NFL wide receiver, but the dynasty community just doesn't seem to value him that way.
All right. From Leaky Spaghetti. Give Rome 105, 204, 206, and get Puka in 107. And this is a 12-by-9 league. No PPR. Oh, man. Points for first down, though. No tight end premium. In this format, give me Puka.
Same.
I'm going to take
Especially because
Puka.
he says has lots of picks, needs studs. That's the move you make.
Sean, always appreciate you, man.
Hey, I have a rapid fire for you, John. I didn't tell you there is. Okay, we're good. Just had to make sure we got there. There is no hedging. 12 team. Your team is a middling team. Just middling team. Okay. You ready? We have 12 of these. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
The 101 or Puka Nacua?
Puka.
The 102, and there's a couple players to these, so you could choose the 102 or Bo Nix or JSN.
Bo Nix over the 102. JSN. I mean, I have them tiered together. Give me the 102.
Okay. 103 or Kyler or AJ Brown.
I will take. Oh man, so this one. Oh. If we had our draft capital and we had our landing spots set, and give me Kyler, AJ Brown versus the 103. Like I want to know where the running back landing spots are.
Okay,
right now, gun to head right now. Gun to head right now. I'll say AJ Brown.
That's fine.
My order would go Kyler, AJ Brown, 103.
Okay, the 104 or Baker or JJ McCarthy.
Give me either of the quarterbacks.
Okay, the 105 or Trevor Lawrence or Rashee Rice.
Trevor Lawrence. I have a thing for quarterbacks. Can you tell?
You do.
Trevor Lawrence, 105 Rashee Rice.
Okay. 106 Devontae Smith or Michael Penix.
Penix, 106 Devontae Smith.
Okay. 107 Bryce Young or Josh Jacobs.
107 Jacobs, Bryce Young.
This is kind of what I saw. At first, I was like, vets, but then you started up going the picks. Okay. 108 Derrick Henry or Zay Flowers.
108 over both.
109 or Metcalf or Waddle.
109 over both.
110 Justin Fields or Tua.
Tua, 110 Fields.
111 or Tyreek or Richardson. I don't even know why I wrote that down because I know you're not picking Richardson.
111 Tyreek Richardson.
Then 112 Sam Darnold or Pickens.
112 over either.
Yep. That's kind of how I felt too. Like at first I'm like, oh, I'm kind of taking these vets. But once I got to that 106, 107, and this was all from Fantasy Calc. This wasn't cherry pick names. They were all right next to where that pick value was. I end up, as soon as that 106 happened, I'm like, pick.
And it's funny because I kind of like, I didn't know you were going to do that to me. So thank you for catching me off guard. I always appreciate surprises.
Happy to
But
help.
whenever you look at that, when we started going through, I was thinking, okay, probably going to be a little bit heavier on the picks earlier and then maybe fizzle off a little bit. But maybe this is why getting into that conversation over that late first round tier break and how I see them versus the 2026 picks. Well, you know, that makes sense. Now, I will say I had an offer. This is from Big Diaz. It was my 26 first for the 111. And this was like 20 minutes before we jumped on the show today. And my team, we just left a startup. my team is dead last in starter ranking. I said I'll move another first, but I can't give you mine.
Yeah.
So it's not just a
Yeah,
blind,
exactly.
hey, here's the
Yep.
first. Yeah, you always get on me because I say, can I get a little more context? So the way in the cross positional tiers I have it right now, if you are an early first, you're projected, obviously, again, it's April and we're trying to project 2026 picks. But if I'm 11th or 12th over on dynastydaddy.com in the power rankings, just high level looking at the contender status. And if I'm 11th or 12th, I'm going to value that at that 103 to 106 tier.
Mhm.
You get, and this is just a broad range. It's just a ballpark. You get into the middle of the 26 first, so 7th to 10th in starter view. You could still miss the playoffs. You could sneak in. You could go, a little bit further than expected, maybe win the championship. I would move that for 107 or 108. And this is in 12 team superflex, somewhat heavier tight end premium formats. My baseline is the additional 1 point. And then that 109 to 112, if it's a 26 first where, it has a better ranking there on the contender meter, if you will. I see Scott and Scott and I, we had conversations last night, and I know it's going to continue tonight over on Ray's channel during the live stream throughout, 5 hours tonight, where we're not going to really see eye to eye on this. But that's what makes Dynasty fantastic and creating that market and the buyers and the sellers. Scott's saying the problem is 109, 112 can't get you anything sexier or more insulated. All I'm saying is wait until we get some of these running back landing spots. Am I going to be disappointed? Well, time will tell. But I do think there's still projections to go. You look at some of the running backs to go in the second round, to go early third round, and then we'll revisit that and we'll talk about it. But you can't get anything sexier or more insulated. George Pickens, he's neither sexy nor insulated.
No, no.
So if we're looking at it from a veteran perspective, but with the 26 pick perspective, I certainly get it. Wanting to kick the can down the road. I know a lot of people like to play that way, and that's fine.
I think it's the optimal way to play, to be honest. It's just, is your league allowing that to happen in the first place? I think that's a big thing because there's a lot of people who want to do that.
Big DS says it was a fair deal. I'm just hedging. I'm not against hedging. I'm not. You trade Pickens for 112. You're just shedding non-flexible assets for something with a prayer of being more flexible. But Pickens isn't a flexible asset, though. Am I wrong?
No, he's not flexible at all. There was a time to where people liked him, but even those people are off him now.
I mean, he's more flexible than I am, but I'm lucky if I can touch my knees, let alone my toes. I'm not very flexible at all. Cody, 109 to 112 feels like the choice of no upside, floor production, aged production, rookie dart, or last chance players. And again, it seems like that sentiment is there within the DD community. I said to Mitch before we went on the air, it's very interesting whenever you go out into the wild and you go into different leagues. I offered a 26 first and a 26 second for the 108 in a league, and then I got countered. So that didn't go anywhere. But I think a lot of people would have went the route of those 26 picks.
Just last year, though, I mean, we could call them rookie darts, but you had Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., and Ladd McConkey there. I mean,
that was a historic class, though.
It was, without a doubt, but we do have players every class that are drafting those points. We can say that, hey, it's a random thing and that's what happens. I will always believe, and I will not ever get off this hill, that the best fantasy managers have excellent player takes. They're the ones that are able to see the nuance between, hey, Hunter Henry is 52 for 550 is what his is, and then Tyler Warren's 51 for 552. They're the exact same, but there is nuance there. And you could say, well, hey, points per game wise, they're going to be the same. which one has more opportunity? Which offense could we see change from previous years? Do we have new coaching staffs? Do we have different reasons why we could see a Brock Bowers absolutely smashing last year? Maybe he comes down with if they bring in some more talent this year. Or maybe Geno makes him that much better because he's that much of a better quarterback. I think these things definitely matter.
Oh, from JPT. John Paul, you were in the chat, I think, all night last night.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we appreciate that. Yes or no? I just got offered 101 for Ladd, Anthony Richardson, and a 26 first.
I'm taking Ladd.
You're taking Ladd. I know you like
I
Ladd.
can't quit Ladd, man. I can't.
Yeah. Give me Ladd there. And it's not necessarily anything to do with AR, even though
No.
maybe we get a little bit of bounce back here in 2025. We'll see how that plays out. So I was looking over on KTC, and we always talk about it. Like there's a lot of issues there. There are, but I just wanted to look at it from the perspective of where those tier breaks are happening. Typically, we're over on Fantasy Calc whenever we're kind of looking at a snapshot of the general market, but that's based on trades that are going through. And well, it doesn't give you that instant overreaction or sometimes the correct reaction. But you look at the 101, then there's a big tier break, shocker. And this is in super flex format. And then I got a plus on the tight ends. So assume 1.75 total PPR for the tight ends there. And then you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just back to back, like within the same tier. And that goes with what you said. That goes with so many of the comments. Like maybe I will let you all talk sense into me with that 102 being slightly above the rest of that group there. Let's see how we go here tonight, because I'm never stubborn ever.
No, never. No need to be that way.
That's why Mitch and I never clash. Neither of us are stubborn. But they 2 to 7, and then we have Travion Henderson at 8. Not a huge gap, but he's kind of in that standalone area between 7 and 9 in his own tier. I think that could change very quickly. And we could be looking at a 2 to 8 situation.
We could. Yeah.
And we talk about it, and it's because we lack the high-end pieces that we're so used to seeing, at least a few. Typically, we get somebody on the quarterback side, but this year it's just Ashton Genty. And again, I seem to like this class more than most, but you still have to be able to look at it, and I think try to take your bias out. So whatever you thought before, and be able to look at it, especially from a market perspective. So 2 through 8, I think that's ultimately going to be a tier until Travion Henderson goes day 3, and we're like, oh no. And then we got 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 as a tier. So kind of going back to the very first question, and was that from Sean? It was the tier breaks. You know, we talk about the first round a lot because we've only seen one round so far, but I think we're going to see a rather big tier break. I think at that 202 mark to 203.
And there's the possibility to where we don't get these good landing spots that we're praying for the running backs. And if that happens, then it's the 109 or the 110.
Oh, don't say that. Why are you putting that out there?
There's the possibility that could happen.
No, we don't want to talk about that possibility.
I just remember when we were streaming, it was 2 or 3 years ago, we were hyped for that second day. It was going to be awesome. And there was like 20 straight picks with no offensive player that mattered selected. I'm like, this is the worst. That draft sucked.
I think I fell asleep for a little bit.
You could have. Yep.
but yeah, so I think a lot of people they're looking, and the way it is right now in KTC, it looks like a tier break at 206, 203 into 204. But I think Shedeur Sanders, that's still adjusting. Uh, I know, Scott, you don't think Cam Scattaboo goes day 2. We'll see if that comes to fruition here at the end of round 3, if he's gone by then. But to wrap it up here, Mitch,
Mhm.
who is going to be the biggest riser for you just from tonight?
I already said it. Dylan Sampson.
Oh, you did, you son of a gun. You
I did.
did.
If he doesn't get drafted, it's gonna suck, because it's gonna be one of those guys that I really like throughout the process that I just can't like in rookie drafts that much. But I really, really hope we see him get drafted tonight. And then, of course, Jalen Royals, Utah State guy who was very, very good, but plays in the Mountain West, so no one really watched him a lot. But I think he's going to be a good pro too. So those are the two guys that I really hope to see drafted to good spots tonight.
Oh man. If we get Scoot and Tuin, if we get Bayshall Tuin to the Kansas City Chiefs at 95, I said in the Discord, I said if he goes day 2, I am going to have to excuse myself for a little bit.
That's fair.
Scootin' Tuin, come on. Let us know in the chat real quick. I see Dustin throwing. JB says JB's gonna explode. So there is the original JB in the DD fantasy
There is.
football community.
You're like
And
JB Jr.
JBJ? Okay.
Yeah.
Junior Bacon. Oh, that's Junior Bacon John over here. But I conceded. I said, I get it. So he's the JB. I'm just some dollar store knockoff over here. JB will accept a 2 and late night package. D-Man, Hampton is so easily in the top 3.
Yeah.
Rashard Smith, if he creeps into the 3rd, that would be shocking. That would be shocking. But yeah, here is to tonight being filled with our draft dreams coming true.
I like it.
Hopefully there are no nightmares coming to fruition where we wake up in a cold sweat and nobody went A2.
Need some Mason Taylor going to the Chiefs tonight. That's what we really need.
Okay.
It's gonna happen.
Oh
Have faith.
man. Let's see here. Who falls? Did you give me somebody that falls tonight?
No. That I'm high on, or that I'm pretty sure that the NFL doesn't like, so they're gonna fall. Because I think you're right on Alec Minor. I don't think he's going tonight.
Or I think he might. I think he's gonna go tonight, but I think like in the 80s, in the 90s,
right.
And whenever I was hoping and thinking he was going to go a little bit earlier. The book's not written yet, so we'll see how it plays out. I mean, the biggest, well, I don't even want to say a running back, because this year is going to be so interesting, because what if we get a running back early day 3 that gets a nice landing spot? I think people are going to be forgiving of the fact they didn't go day 2, because it is a deeper class, and it's kind of like, okay, well, it's kind of like a 3rd.
Okay, does Shedeur Sanders go in round 2?
Oh shit. Yeah.
Does he go in the first 10 picks of round 2?
Well, if he doesn't, then I don't know if he goes round 2.
I'm just okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And right. Brandon was talking about it in the community chat today, talking about the over under on where he was going to go, and looking at it from, well, if the Browns take him with their first pick, if they take him with their second, is there a reason for them to even take him with the first if they do end up taking him? So that was a good conversation. But looking at like early round 4, Giants, Patriots. Like, there's no spots there that I'm just like screaming, like, okay, let's go. Like, you would, I think there's a lot of spots for running backs where you could pair them with somebody that's there and it could be a really nice 1-2 punch.
Mhm. Which is what the NFL is now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a little pre-show, little afternoon delight here with Dynasty Theory. Hopefully everybody joins us. Don't, you're shaking your head over
No.
there. Hopefully everybody has time tonight and the availability to join us over on Ray's channel. A ton of eyeballs on us last night, and hopefully everybody's joining us again tonight. This is the moneymaker for Dynasty Fantasy Football, for
Yep.
fantasy football. Day 2, second and third round, where hopefully those dreams become a reality. So again, make sure you check out the schedule. I know it's been blasted all over X. It's in the Discord. It's in the other videos on the channel. And if you haven't had a chance, make sure before tonight kicks off, you go over, check out the episode of Manic and Chill from a couple hours ago that Scott and Shane put out. And then it's just going to be content galore. All right. Well, for Mitch Sorensen, I'm John Bauer. We'll catch everybody later tonight. Peace.